Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Storm Chaser Coaching Podcast. I am Gabriel Harber, and I am joined this month by Trey Greenwood, fresh off of the Hurricane Chasing Foundations module being released. Trey, how's it going, man?
Doing well. Finally recovering from tour season, relaxing here in Arizona for a little bit. But yeah, I was excited to get the hurricane module out. Excited to add some hurricane content to our library.
One of the things that is important is that we are always learning, right? We make
Mhm.
sure that learning is at the forefront of everything we do at Storm Chaser Coaching. And that doesn't just apply to the Chaser Academy, to all of our podcasts, to all of our YouTube videos. That also applies to the people that work here. And I can tell you, Trey, one lesson that I learned is never try to start a storm chasing business right as storm chasing season is beginning.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
Apparently, and who would have thought this, it's difficult to get a hold of chasers and wrangle them into creating content when they're out actually chasing the storms. So we'll chalk
Hey,
that one up to a lesson being learned.
you live and learn, right?
Yeah. So, for those who are wondering, that is why the Hurricane Chasing Foundations module was delayed a little bit. If you were one of the folks who was eagerly anticipating that, I know we had a lot of people asking about it, but never fear, it is officially in the Chaser Academy now. By the time you're listening to this, there will be a preview of that up on YouTube as well. So, you can go and navigate to the Chaser Academy. Actually, I think it's the playlist is named Training Modules. You can navigate, you can check out that preview. And if you want to subscribe to the Chaser Academy, that link is going to be in the description wherever you happen to be listening to this, whether it's on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts. They're all obviously laid out a little bit differently, but you can just navigate to the description, click that link, get into the Chaser Academy. It's an absolutely great deal. We've got tons of content in there, more content being added every single month. Chasen explains, training modules, Q&A sessions. For the price, you absolutely cannot beat it. Trey, let's go ahead and get into some of the hurricane discussion here. As we always do with these training modules, we record a podcast that gives folks basically 3 actionable tips that they can use to really improve their skills with whatever the topic happens to be. So for hurricane chasing, tip number 1, you have using microwave imagery to reveal structure, particularly with the eye wall or the eye. And this one's a little foreign to me, and I'm sure it will be to a lot of our listeners, because when you're chasing supercells, you just use the radar and you can see the structure laid out, and that's all you need. But you're saying actually we need to use some other tools to actually discern what's going on with the structure of hurricanes.
Yeah, so I think probably satellite is the main tool that people think of when trying to assess the structure of a hurricane. And that is true. We go through all the satellite tips and tricks in the Hurricane Chasing Foundations module. But one tool I think that might be underutilized in hurricane forecasting, at least from just novices and whatnot, not necessarily the NHC folks. They will always usually hint at microwave data in their forecast discussion. So they definitely use it, but it might not be as widespread as far as usage goes in just the general hurricane chasing community. And microwave imagery is a really important tool to use for identifying the structure of a hurricane and how it's changing, especially with the eye wall and the eye. Sometimes looking at visible satellite, you might see the hurricane, it might look disorganized. And that could be because the eye is clouded over. The clouds might be actually covering the eye that's developing, which means that when you have an eye developing in a hurricane, it means that usually that the hurricane is strengthening. But on visible satellite and infrared satellite, you might not be able to see that very well. What is nice about microwave imagery is it pierces through the clouds and you can actually see the structure of the eye wall and the eye fairly clearly, sometimes a lot more clearly than you can just on satellite imagery. So that can tell you if the eye is closing off, which of course is a sign of intensification. It can tell you if the eye is open, maybe if the storm is still struggling with a little bit of wind shear or something. So microwave imagery is really important. You can find it on the University of Wisconsin SIMS tropical cyclone page. They have a really great page. If you go to the cheat sheet for the Hurricane Chasing Foundations module, I'll have a link to that in there. But they have all the microwave imagery you'd want, and it's a really good tool to use when you're looking to see how a hurricane is evolving, especially with its structure.
Great point on the hurricane forecasting cheat sheet. So, those of you who are already part of the Chaser Academy might not even know this, but for every single video in a training module in the Chaser Academy, if you click the attachments tab, at minimum, we always have at least a quiz there, and a lot of times we have supplementary material, like Trey was just alluding to with the Hurricane cheat sheet. So you're going to get more information that you can use to help you long after you're done watching the module and taking in all the information. You can download that to your phone, and then whenever you happen to be out and about, sitting on the couch or whatever, trying to see what's going on with the hurricanes, you can just pop that open real quick and have access to the information. So really cool that you made that for everyone, Trey.
Yeah, there's a lot of different sites out there with a bunch of tropical cyclone information, lots of really good sites. And so I wanted to have that in one document for folks to use. Mention, tropical tidbits and stuff and whatnot in the videos, but I wanted a place where everyone could have those sites, have the links to the sites and what they actually do, because it can get a little bit confusing when you're out there. There's a lot of different data sources, so having them all in one document, clearly outlining what they do, I thought would be good to include in that module.
Very good, sir. And we are going to move on to tip number 2. But before we hit that, I just want to remind everyone, if you have not already subscribed on the platform that you're listening to this on, what the hell? Why haven't you? We put out these episodes regularly, and you definitely want to be notified when they come out. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Trey, do I sound like a real YouTuber yet? Telling them to smash that subscribe button?
You do. Smash that like button and subscribe.
Have you ever done that in any of your Convective Chronicles videos?
I have not. I probably should. You know me, I'm pretty stubborn with just wanting to get the information out. So
Yep.
I want there to be as little distraction as possible. If people want to subscribe, they subscribe. But I just want people to know it's there. And if you want to subscribe, that's on you. I actually have people that comment saying, "Everyone, you got to subscribe. You got to hit the like button." So that's always nice. But I
A
probably should do
little
that a little bit more.
Yeah, a little window into the internal struggles at Storm Chaser coaching. One of the things I
Indeed.
love and hate about Trey is the fact that he is about as honest of a salesman as you can find in the, I would say, not just the weather world, just business in general. That's what we love about you, but also it can be like pulling teeth to try to get you to do any sort of self-promotion.
I know, I know.
All right, tip number 2. And this one I think is going to be super helpful for people because I've talked with Kyle Gillette in the past about this in relation to supercells on my personal podcast, Chaser Chat. I've talked with Cameron about this, Cameron Nixon. It's not just about the direction or the movement of something, it's about its relation to other things. So you have listed here the right front quadrant is the most intense part of a hurricane, but then in parentheses you said most people know this, but they misapply it. They think it's just the northeast quadrant, but it's actually the right front quadrant with respect to the storm motion.
Right. A lot of people know that you should be in the right front quadrant of the eye wall, but a lot of times people just think it's the northeast quadrant and you're good to go. It's really dependent on the storm's motion overall. So say you have a storm that's moving, say 20 knots out of the due south. So it's moving due south to north. And I go over this example in episode 2, I believe, of the Hurricane Chasing Foundations module. But let's say we have a hurricane that's moving toward the due north at 20 knots, let's say. And let's say we have a 100-knot wind on the east side of the hurricane. Well, what happens is that 100 knots is going to couple with that 20-knot storm motion to give you a net wind of 120 knots on that east or northeast side, which is, of course, the right front quadrant. If you were to split the hurricane up into 4 quadrants, that the right front quadrant in this example, moving due north, would be the northeast quadrant. Now, on the other side, let's say we have 100-knot winds, but again, the storm is moving. Of course, on the west side of a hurricane, you're going to have winds out of the north instead of the east side, winds out of the south. So you have northerly winds moving from north to south on the west side at 100 knots. That's opposing the storm motion of 20 knots. So your net wind is going to be 100 minus 20, which is 80 knots. So you're going to have effectively weaker winds on the western half of the hurricane, which is moving toward the north, than you are on the east side. So I know that was a little bit convoluted. Again, check out the example in episode 2 of the Hurricane Chasing Foundations module. But that goes to show you that all the right front quadrant is going to be your best quadrant, and it's always dependent on storm motion. For example, if you have a hurricane that's moving due west, east to west, that most intense quadrant is going to shift to the northwest quadrant because that is the right front quadrant with respect to the storm motion. So it's always with respect to the storm motion, not just the northeast quadrant. Always keep that in mind when you're chasing. Of course, most chasers who chase hurricanes want to be in that most intense portion of the hurricane, of the eye wall. And that's going to be the right front quadrant with respect to storm motion. So always keep the storm motion in mind when you're planning out where to intercept the hurricane.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people that take in this content as well, even if they're not storm chasers, they use it as a way of educating themselves so that they can actually help other people that they know. And it seems like everybody knows somebody that's impacted by a hurricane at some point. So just being able to relay simple information like that, which is, hey, it looks like the hurricane has shifted and now the right front quadrant is heading towards you. You don't even need to explain to your friend or family member what that means, but you can just say it looks like the most intense winds or the most intense portion of the storm surge is actually heading your way. Maybe it's time for you to take those additional precautionary measures. And I think that's just a great tool that people can have in their toolkit for when they are doing everything from storm chasing to actually helping to keep friends and family members safe.
Exactly right. I've gotten a lot of questions about should I subscribe to Storm Chaser coaching because I don't really storm chase, but I have people that I'm the weather geek of my family and they kind of rely on me when things get bad to tell us where to go. And I always say, absolutely. That is one of the things that is great about Storm Chaser coaching and the content we have is that it's, of course, tailored to storm chasers, but anybody can use it. And the tips that we have in all these modules are going to be applicable to someone just who gets in the path of a tornado warning one night and wants to safely be able to have a process to get out of the way or to shelter from that. That our content is definitely geared to that as well. Even if you don't storm chase, even if you have family in storm prone areas, the content here on Storm Chaser coaching is great for that and helping you learn and be able to keep them safe even if you don't chase yourself.
I've been super surprised, by the way, at just how many people we have both in our free community and also subscribe to the Chaser Academy who aren't really interested, at least in storm chasing regularly. I think we have somebody in the Chaser Academy that's even from Holland. We have lots of people that are over in the UK. Obviously, not a lot of storm chasing opportunities in the UK. And in my mind, at least, the closest parallel that I've been able to draw is something like the advanced analytics in baseball. They made an entire movie called Moneyball about how people just love geeking out over all the statistics and the better ways to build teams and all that jazz. And a lot of the people, the majority of the people who obsess over websites like Fangraphs or Baseball Reference, and they're super into learning all the exit velocities and launch angles and spin rates for the pitchers and all that stuff. They're never going to throw a baseball or swing a bat for the rest of their life. But they're super interested in learning about it because it makes actually observing it a lot more fun when they actually understand the processes behind it. And so that's how I've been able to wrap my mind around the idea that, yeah, maybe there's actually a lot of people who aren't really super interested in storm chasing, but they love watching storm chasing content. They love watching some of the live streamers that are out there. Maybe they just like going out on their porch whenever storms roll in during the spring and the summer and sitting there with a beer and just watching it until it gets too close for comfort. And all those people are folks who would definitely enjoy the content in the Chaser Academy for all of the reasons that we just talked about.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. I might be biased here, but I think severe weather forecasting is really interesting and storm chasing strategy is really interesting. So even if you don't storm chase, it's a really interesting subject to get into just from a learning perspective. You're exactly right on that.
All right, tip number 3, the final one here, preparation is critical. You have in parentheses scouting the intercept area, getting supplies, etc. How should people approach that, and what does the Chasing Foundations or Chasing the Hurricane Chasing Foundations module offer folks in that regard?
Yeah, so episode 3 in the Hurricane Chasing Foundations module is entirely over the chasing process. And so you'll get all the in-depth information you'd want about preparing for chasing a hurricane in that episode. But preparation is absolutely critical with hurricane chasing. I say it many times in the module, but with a hurricane chase, you are putting yourself in the path of destruction, so to speak. Whereas with a supercell or tornado chase, you're not going inside the tornado. You're trying to get close to the storm, but not put yourself in the path of the tornado. Whereas with a hurricane, that's not the case. So the margin for error is a lot less with hurricane chasing than it is with supercell and tornado chasing. So preparation, doing your homework is absolutely critical. I hear a lot of stories about chasers sliding in at the last minute, right as the hurricane's about to make landfall. And that's just a bad idea, especially with a really intense hurricane. You want to be prepared for any scenario that comes in. And if you're sliding in right at the last minute, that's not going to be the best way to do that. I like to go down at least a day, maybe 2 days early, just take my time getting down there and really scouting the intercept area, especially if it's an area I've never been to before. Looking at different potential intercept locations, looking at the topography of the area. Where are the areas of higher ground? Where are the sturdy structures? Getting a real good feel for the land before the hurricane strikes is a must, in my opinion, because it allows you to have multiple plans and plan for multiple different scenarios and plan for the worst case scenario if it does happen. Whereas if you're sliding in at the last minute, that's just not going to be able to be the case. And preparing, getting supply is critical as well. Having that supply of gas on hand, having that supply of non-perishable food on hand, that's critical. Doing it outside of the area where folks are going to get hit. The residents of those areas need that those supplies more than you do. So be courteous, get the stuff outside of the area, and go ahead and be prepared going into the area of it, the intercept area ahead of time is the way to go. You just have to do your homework because, again, the margin for error is a lot less with hurricane chasing. So you need to be prepared for many different situations and be prepared for the worst case scenario. And the way to do that is doing your homework and preparing well ahead of time, knowing the lay of the land, getting supplies and such ahead of time, and then you'll be good to go.
Now, Trey, this is the question that I think I get asked more than any other question, and we'll call it a bonus tip. What do you do about using the bathroom?
So you just gotta kind of wing it. I will admit, I have done the duty in the corner of a parking garage, and that's just what you have to do out there because usually you're not going to have a place like a hotel where you can ride it out. A lot of the times they're going to be closed, evacuated. On rare occasion you'll have a place where you can go to the bathroom, but most of the time you're just winging it. And honestly, most of the time the adrenaline takes over and you don't even know that you have to pee for a while until the hurricane subsides. Well, it's not a huge deal, but you just have to wing it.
I'm not sure exactly what answer I was expecting, but I think that one is as good as any.
Yeah, you just got to do what you got to do. Hurricane chasing is certainly not pretty. It's not for everybody. It's definitely down and dirty. But yeah, sometimes you just gotta wing it.
Would you say it's like the redheaded stepchild of traditional storm chasing?
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, Trey, I think that will wrap up the episode. I hope people are able to take these 3 tips, put them into action if they do plan on going out and chasing hurricanes, or if they just plan on chilling at home and watching their favorite storm chaser live stream, or checking out the storms on radar or satellite or microwave imagery as they roll in.
Indeed.
We will be back, of course, next month with another one of these 3 tips episodes. And of course, as we mentioned at the beginning, if you're interested in checking out that entire Hurricane Chasing Foundations module, you can check out the preview video that is on YouTube right now. Go to that training modules playlist, and you can go to the link in the description wherever you happen to be listening to this and sign up for the Chaser Academy. It's a monthly subscription, and you'll have access to the Hurricane Chasing Foundations module as well as many other products. Trey, thank you very much for joining me here today, and we'll be back soon with another episode.
Thanks, everybody.